November 2024 news hit. Illegal miners trapped in Stilfontein mine in the Northwest Province. And unrealistic figures are going around that about 4,000 illegal miners are underground. Now the question is, are they really trapped, and is there really 4,000 of them? Hi everyone, I'm Sarah. Welcome to my YouTube channel, The Deadly Nightshade, where we will use visual storytelling to talk about matters involving crime and deviance in South Africa. Without wasting any time, let's dig in and find out if they were really trapped. If you want a bit of a background on the illegal mining sector, you can watch the previous video, which is titled The Dingy World of the Zamazamas. Now let's dig into it. Words such as trapped and locked in are used in several articles, but is that really the case? August 2024, a siege operation was initiated by South African authorities on a closed gold mine near Stilfontein. One of the measures to stop illegal mining is to conduct sting operations and raids in the abandoned mines. This can be done through the help of tip-offs and proper investigations. And this is exactly what the police did in Stilfontein. Kudos to the South African police. Credit should be given when a good job is being done. I don't want you guys to say that I'm always bashing the police. This investigation and operation was called Operation Vala Umgodi, or Plug the Hole. Now, before we get into detail about the whole operation, let's do a little bit of a background of the mine and the Zamazamas. The Northwest Province Stilfontein gold mine was previously a significant producer of gold, and it was shut down in 2013. Following its closure, the site had become a base for illegal mining operations conducted by artisanal miners referred to as Zamazamas. The mine was shut down because it was no longer economically viable to extract gold from its remaining core. Moreover, the miners dug deeper to extract gold. It became inherently dangerous for the miners. There were issues of increasing rockfall and seismicity. Seismicity means the occurrence or frequency of earthquakes in a region. Other complications included high temperatures and ventilation issues. There are many other reasons, but for our context, I wanted to highlight the issue of safety. Let's now talk about the Zamazamas. The Zamazamas in these mines often think that they are untouchable and nothing can happen to them. Here is a video to show you what I'm talking about.
Zamazama will never end. Korite will never die.
The Zamazamas are often also heavily armed with guns and explosives. So before we get into this, you now know what the police are dealing with. Without further ado, let's go back to the Operation Vala Umgodi. The police first surrounded the entrance to the old gold mine shaft, which is about 2.5 kilometers deep. The goal was to compel the miners to come out so that they can arrest them. I can imagine it. They are in there doing their illicit day-to-day acts underground, the digging or even dancing. Yeah, they do dance underground. You thought I was kidding? They are humans, of course. They will have some fun at work. Anyways, imagine they do whatever activity that they're doing, and then they hear that the place has been surrounded by the police. Forget about a mining license. They are there illegally, no proper documentation whatsoever, and in their minds they're probably like, oh no, we're not getting out of here. This is mainly because they know that if they get out of there, they're gonna get arrested and most probably get deported. And they know very well that the police won't go underground to fetch them, as it is dangerous down there. So they probably decided that, you know what, we're just gonna chill in here until the police leave. But the police did not leave. Okay, alright, I'm overstretching it a bit. Maybe something like this didn't happen. Okay, but probably something similar. You must know that the police officials have been guarding the place since the earliest days of August. They wanted the Zamazamas out so that they can arrest them. You might say, why don't they just get in there and get them out? Well, they can't because number one, it is too dangerous to get in the abandoned mines. Only professionals who are trained can get in there and do the rescuing. I get they're saying they're trapped, so professionals can save them. Remember the professionals that we talked about in the last episode, in the dingy world of the Zamazamas? Yeah, the mining rescue services. Only them, they can save them because they are properly trained to deal with such situations. Number two, the officials cannot go in there because it is alleged that the Zamazamas are heavily armed. So imagine getting there and shots are being fired. And honestly, being a police official is really not for the faint-hearted. So the police officials came up with a strategy because they can't go in there. They were like, let's make them come out themselves.
We're going to smoke them out. They will come out. We're not sending help to criminals. Criminals are not to be helped. Criminals are to be persecuted. We didn't send them there. And they didn't go down there for the good benefit or good intentions for the Republic. So we can't help them. Those who want to help them, they must go and take the food down there. They will come out. We'll arrest them.
So they decided, how about we deprive them of food and water? Yes, no food or water will go down there. The miners themselves can't go out to the spaza shops in the communities to buy food like they usually do because they've been surrounded and they fear being arrested. And the other people who used to bring them the food and whatever, they also can't get in because the place is surrounded by the police. That led to the Zamazamas to be starved and eventually weakened. Most of them came out. Around 1,239 illegal miners came out from different disused mine shafts. This made people wary of this. People started asking questions that, are they really trapped or what? Because you can see that others are coming out. What about others? Others are coming out and others are not? Soon enough, this matter escalated as activists and organizations brought the matter to the Pretoria High Court. The organizations wanted the government to provide basic necessities to the Zamazamas underground. Such necessities include food, water, medical aid, and blankets. They also wanted the government to help the Zamazamas out of the mines as they are trapped. The court dismissed the application. The judge proceeding the case said, and I quote, "The society has offered no cogent proof to show that the respondents' response to the situation is not measured, considered, and proportional. In my view, given that the society has no expertise of its own in this area, has not engaged an expert to put evidence on this issue before the court, and has not demonstrated that the rescue efforts can and should be conducted differently, the only conclusion to be drawn is that mine rescue operations are underway and all necessary efforts are being made to rescue the miners. There are also other exit venues available for miners to use as there have been from the onset. This being so, allegations made by the society have been placed in context by the respondents and have demonstrated to be incorrect. Let me, however, state that there was an appeal and the High Court changed its ruling and ordered for the mine to be unblocked and that no institution, government, or private entity should block the exit points as some were allegedly blocked by the police. The new ruling also stated that any person should be allowed to exit the mine and that anyone who is not part of the emergency personnel will not be allowed to enter the mine. This is because there were some volunteers in the communities who acted and attempted to rescue the illegal miners. In this whole Stilfontein mining situation, we had three sides of the story. The first one is of the NGOs or organizations and activists. The second one is of the police, and the third one is of the illegal miners. We'll talk about all of them in that order. First, we have the organizations, NGOs, or activists. Activists and some community members claim that Zamazamas are trapped in the mines and are unable to come out. They further claim that the police had presumed that the illegal miners are guilty and were trying to punish and harass them by making arrests. I think this claim by the organization is rather absurd. So, all in all, they do not want Zamazamas to be arrested for their crimes. Yeah, I know the presumption of innocence until proven guilty, but come on, guys. For starters, most of the illegal miners are illegal immigrants, so they entered the country illegally. Secondly, they are mining illegally. Thirdly, they have weapons that have been obtained illegally. Everything is illegal. So the activists are saying the police should not do their job. They should not make arrests. Are they perpetuating crime? This questions their whole integrity. Are they benefiting from illegal mining by the Zamazamas? Why are they protecting them? We also have opinions of Mr. Duma Kubule, an economist who collaborates with mining communities, who think that illegal mining should be legalized, just like marijuana was legalized. Watch the following video.
And all of that. We get attacked on different sides, but all we do is that if police are saying that these are suspected illegal miners.
But nobody says suspected illegal miners, but when politicians go to, court for corruption cases, no one calls them illegal criminals, until you've been charged in a court of law. And I just think it's shameful that the media has perpetuated this kind of language. And also the fabrication of the cops, these shafts are different. Margaret Shaft, it's an operational mine. It is 20 kilometers from shaft 11 and 10. And there is the Harmony Gold, which is pumping water at that shaft, said in court that there is no link between Margaret and the other two. So the people can't move from Margaret, as the cops wanted to do them, to move from 11 and 10 to Margaret. That is just impossible.
So the fact that we just heard now Deboho saying that there were people coming out of Margaret, for you that doesn't...
That's completely separate, because we're talking about shaft 10 and 11. So the crisis is at shaft 10 and 11. So Margaret is, people are coming out, they come out with a lift, and it's complete, they're not even linked, because the tunnels underground, what we're hearing, is that they're flooded and collapsed. And this is what the company that owns Margaret has been saying. Now, the second thing that people need to understand is that shaft 11 is almost 2 kilometers down. There was no way for people to come out without assistance from the surface. And as you've seen for the past 5 months, since August 18, when the cops went there, nobody has come out of shaft 11 without assistance from above, either through the rope or through the cage. So nobody has just walked out of shaft 11. So there was this debate, are they trapped, are they not trapped? So if they were not trapped, why do we have to send a cage and a rope to rescue them? Because they can't come out. Yeah. And this was just fabrication by the cops that they can come out. They're there of their own will. It's a mass suicide. That is just, and I think the media should have called them out for the lies and fabrication that we're talking about here.
I'm going to get to the latter part of what you've just said in just a moment, but you've argued, and I'm quoting from what you've said, that there's no logic in the way in which the operation in Stilfontein was conducted, and that this is a desperate attempt to get electoral support.
Yes. So I can't see logic for this. It's like the government is saying that, I just think that the government is, there was an electoral collapse. They want to be seen to be doing something for crime. And they're pandering to the lowest common denominator in society, the bigots who want to see dead bodies. Now, we have a constitution. We're a constitutional democracy. What is so difficult to understand that? Everyone has a same right to life, right to dignity, right to food, and none of these rights depend on your legal status or your nationality. But there's been this xenophobic narrative that is pushed across South African society because they're foreign nationals, international migrants. They are anything can happen to them. That is wrong. Our constitution doesn't allow that. Everybody who is in South Africa has those rights,
And when it comes to Police Minister Senzo Mchunu yesterday, because this was one of the questions to him, to say that you've been criticized in how government has been handling this, and also listening to what Makua has had to say. One of the things that the minister said to us is that this is not the time for us or even yourselves or anybody who's involved in this matter to be apportioning blame, but it is time for cool heads as now they're trying to resolve the crisis. How do you respond to that?
I felt sad when I was watching Senzo Mchunu, and the minister was told by my mother, and he was there at the launch of a school, that my mother set up, and I just find it heartbreaking. And the deputy minister was saying that, no, we were in meetings. Why didn't they do this in November, this rescue opportunity? So the deputy minister says, we were in meetings every day until now. Meetings about what? Why didn't they do what all of us were saying they must do? Send up this crane and this thing to get the people out. What is so difficult about that? And then there was this narrative that it will cost too much. The quote from the Mine Rescue Services was 11.3 million rands. I have it at home. And that is spare coins in the context of a 2.4 trillion budget. It is spare coins in the context of 30 billion rand that we spend as a country managing prisons. If we had to decide to starve prisoners who are convicted criminals, that would be seen as against human rights in our country. We can't do that. We're a constitutional democracy. Yeah.
And you've argued that, while government is talking about what's taking place at the ICJ, they should also look closely at what's happening at home.
Yes, how can you take a case to the ICJ for genocide correctly, but now you're behaving in the same way that the Israelis behave? They dehumanize the Palestinians. We are dehumanizing the artisanal miners, And the sad thing I have to say, Bongo, is that, there is no security solution to this issue. I've been working on mining issues for about 15 years. And from day one, I have worked with Makua in terms of issues relating to transformation of the mining industry. And I've just got to say, you will never eradicate it. There was a report that came from the World Gold Council. 20% of gold supply is from informal mining. We have to recognize informal mining, just like we recognize informal, farmers, cannabis farmers, you know what I'm saying? So cannabis is a 20 billion rand. All those farmers are doing it illegally, but we have to recognize cannabis as a legitimate livelihood strategy. And the same for informal mining, yes.
So, Duma, you talk about that, right? Yeah. And it's something that a number of organizations are talking about. There's one thing, though, the issue of kingpins. How do you begin to deal with this? Because when you listen to what the minister even said yesterday, was that some of the, the guys coming from, from underground are saying that they were forced.
Yes, they were forced. And nobody condones it. But what I do have a problem with is when Newsroom Africa have been pushing this idiotic discourse for days, that the reason that people are dying is because of the kingpins. The reason people are dying is because the government shut the hole for 3 months, from August 18 until the court case.
So for me, I need it when it comes to, you're saying that it's time to recognize it. It's not time to run away from it.
Yes.
But the reality is, for example, in the Sabi, you had those Mozambican, and some of them were children. And they say that they were lured into the country.
Nobody condones that. But I'm saying you can't say that the kingpins are responsible for this.
Yes, but my question, Duma, is how, in that recognition process, how does government also, and police deal with this? Is there a willingness to find these individuals who are forcing people to
but
go
if we
down?
recognize this industry and make it a recognized livelihood strategy, we would regulate the industry. Now, we've got an artisanal mining policy, but it only applies to surface mining. So now, if it applies for underground mining, what would we do? We would recognize it. We would make these people work with dignity. We would flush out those kind of practices, because now the labor law applies. And then we would have an artisanal mining development agency that provides funding and equipment. You must remember that when Village Main Reef, the owner of Stilfontein mine, abandoned that mine, there was 11.8 million ounces underground. So the artisanal miners saw an opportunity. They went there through desperate poverty. So how can we, with funding, technology, equipment, allow these people to work with dignity?
A lot of people don't agree with his opinion. This is what people on X had to say about this. Sami said, "Another amateur critic not affected by crime hiding behind high walls, electric fence, and gated complex." Another comment reads, "Must we pay TV license to listen to this crap?" Another comment reads, "Shame, this guy is actually promoting criminality." Impressive false equivalence from this imbecile between Gaza and Stilfontein. Also, should we not call burglars burglars, instead call them temporary home sitters? And what about pedophiles? Should we call them babysitters? According to this logic, to do or say anything else is to dehumanize them. This is how these institutions are being funded now, by artisanal miners, otherwise known as illegal miners. Imagine you own a shop, because of difficulties you close your shop, and someone decides to mine your shop and they get stuck in burglar guards. According to Vavi and his cabal, you should help free the thief and provide them with food if they are hungry. These people are illegal in the country and they go further and perform illegal acts. He starts by getting entangled in the semantics of illegality and guilt. He then conflates illegality with guilt. It's illegal to be trespassing. That's not the same as saying you are guilty. Those people would have to be charged with trespassing first to determine guilt. And the last comment reads, quoting Mr. Duma, "When governments don't care for their people, what choice do people have to survive? It is survival mining, not illegal mining." This person is surprised, and I'm also surprised. By this logic, I think Mr. Duma is perpetuating criminality. He's basically saying the country should legalize crime. If I rob a bank because I'm poor, it is okay. If I hijack cars and kill people for money, it is okay. If I commit armed robbery, then it is okay, as long as I'm poor. If he's saying illegal miners are doing this because of poverty and they are not guilty, then it means everyone else who has committed a crime because of money and poverty is then innocent. Let us not uphold the law only when it suits the narrative. What will become of our society if we legalize crime? We have laws in our country and we have to uphold them in order to have a functional society. Without laws, everyone would be doing whatever that they want. Let us not allow the legalization of criminal behavior. Our laws are here to guide and protect us. Anyways, that's just my opinion. Moving on. The second side is the facts from the police. The police has said that no illegal miner was trapped inside, and the proof of it is that during all stakeouts, a certain number of illegal miners would resurface from different exit points, which proves that no one in there is trapped. At that time, about 1,239 illegal miners had resurfaced, so judging from that, it was clear that they were not trapped. The police were clearly not backing down from this fight. They were determined.
Other thing before we end this press conference that I want to emphasize, that people must not have selective amnesia. We are dealing with criminals here. Not so long ago in Gauteng, they raped young girls when they were shooting music video. People that are cruel. In Kagiso, they raped a father, a son, and a mother. A father committed suicide because he was affected psychologically. Now, people must not shift the attention of government on outrooting criminals in our society. Not so long ago here in Kanana, I remember it was my first week in office. I came to a tavern. They killed 15 people. I was there. I saw families crying to me as they missed. So people must not shift their attention. We are going to deal with the Zamazamas. We are not breaking down. Thank you very much.
After the final court order, the police started sending down food and water, and medical personnel were also provided for when they resurface. Now, let's talk about the third side, which is about the Zamazamas side of the story. What was really happening in that mine? The illegal miners that resurfaced from the mine confirmed what the police have been saying, that no one was trapped, but rather what was happening is that there seemed to be a hostage situation. So the Zamazamas themselves, on the inside, they have leaders amongst themselves. These are underground gang leaders who oversee mining operations. So these leaders were allegedly heavily armed and they refused for the other Zamazamas to resurface. The leaders allegedly forced them to dig for gold. Apparently it was 10 of them and they were Basotho nationals. When the basic necessities were sent down to them, your water, food, medications, the leaders, the Basotho nationals, would confiscate them for themselves. If they want food, they had to work for it. They had to dig out the gold. So to sum it up, the Zamazamas were unable to come out to the surface out of fear of being arrested or subjected to retaliation by armed underground gangs. They said they were starving inside and they had resorted to eating toothpaste mixed with salt, eating cockroaches and human flesh. I don't know how much of the truth this is, but human flesh, whom did they eat? Did they eat those that were dead already? Or they ate each other? Sorry, I'm just being sarcastic. So sorry. The letter shown in the video is an affidavit. I'll attach the letters in the description below. The person is basically talking about how he got into illegal mining. He was poor, wanted to provide for his family, and then he went to work at the mine. He was working in there, and then all of a sudden they couldn't get food and water like they usually used to. Yeah, he's just basically telling us the story of what happened inside as he was in there. There's one thing that stood up for me, which is lack of accountability at some point. Yes, all lives matter. Every human person has the right to life and basic necessities I agree, and I do sympathize with them. I do feel sorry for them. No human being deserves to be treated like that, without water, food, your basic necessities. I do sympathize with them. However, what stood out in this letter are the following words. I just summarized them for myself, but you can go through them. We were living underground and receiving basic necessities on time. We had support from outside. It was a good structure. But then this network of ours was disrupted by the police with their Operation Vala Umgodi. There's no accountability whatsoever. So he's not saying, I went to mine illegally and it was wrong. He's basically saying the police were wrong for disturbing us with our illegal mining work. He is saying the police were not supposed to do their job. He further says, Operation Vala Umgodi without warning from the police made the situation worse. So he's saying that the police were supposed to let them know that they're going to catch them in the act of mining illegally in an unauthorized mine. As much as I sympathize with them, they have to be accountable for their actions. They should not be blaming the police officials for their illegal deeds. Yes, the situation was not handled in a proper way, but they also have to be held accountable.
As a starting point, the right to life, dignity, and health is no license for illegal miners to undermine the criminal justice system. In fact, those rights do not require that for them to be observed while miners or you need to commit an illegal activity. It doesn't require so. We must differentiate, my lady, the human rights and criminal activities. What we are dealing with here, we are dealing with individuals who are at a mine that they are not supposed to be doing and have been provided exit. They do not want to come out because they fear or they do not want to be arrested. You can't have it both ways. You can't say, well, I'm going to sit here, but I also, because if I go out, they're going to arrest me. But I also want my right to life, dignity and health to be respected, in the sense that when I want medication, when I want doctors, bring them to me. When I want my grocery, bring everything to me, bring my generators to me. I don't want to go out and face the law. That can't be allowed.
Anyways, another interesting thing happened underground. The Zamazamas were able to reach out and communicate with the police and community rescue teams by sending out letters. Yes, letters. So, but how when they are trapped inside? Guys, I do not know. But a lot of people on X also asked the same thing. Yeah, they were thinking that, oh, is there someone outside who is on their side, who's writing these letters for them? We don't know. But if you have any information, you can leave it in the comment. Here is what the police had to say about that.
That they are not trapped, because if they were trapped, they would have indicated. This is a note that was coming from underground. And if I can read it, it says, "Sicela ukudla lapha emgodini, food please." If these illegal miners were trapped, they would have indicated in this particular note that they brought up with I think it's the rope that they utilize to bring up food and water. They would have indicated that they were trapped. But be that as it may, we are continuing as directed by the minister with the rescue plan. Yesterday, the rescue experts met. They have indicated that they will be starting with a rescue mission. We know that because of the risk as well, they will be putting a camera down there to assess first. No one can just go down there. They have to assess if it is indeed safe for emergency service to go underground. So in a nutshell, as the SAPS, our operations continue, and we stand static at all these disused and abandoned mining shafts. Our mandate is one, and that is why Operation Valomgoti was established. It's to prevent, combat, and investigate criminality.
In one letter, they ask for essential supplies such as medicine, food, and specific items like mayonnaise and tomato sauce. Yeah. Honestly, if you're trapped inside a mine and you have a chance of writing a list of essentials that you need, and then you mention the sauces. You mention mayonnaise and tomato sauce. Are you really trapped? I mean, come on. Come on, sauces? For real. Anyways, in one of their other letters, they asked for ARVs. I can't read this, but translated to English, the letter reads, "We need ARVs. People need them here, please." The Deputy Commissioner of the Police, Lieutenant General Tebello, stated in a press conference that the ARVs will be sent down to the miners because they are following a court order that says essentials should be given to the miners underground.
The sending of the ARVs, will recall that we have interim court order that was issued on Saturday that requested that we need to give the necessary medication that will ensure the safety of life. And if that ARVs is one of the requests that is being done, we have indicated that it will be done in a very coordinated manner. They know where to go, where the team is convening, where they will give those ARVs that will go down underground for the safety of, or as the emergency rescue.
It is important to note that ARV medication can only be prescribed by a registered practitioner, and that the practitioner can prescribe the medication after medically examining the patient. This is what the Minister of Health, Dr. Aaron Motsoaledi, had to say about giving ARVs to the illegal miners underground.
Retrovirals are not Panado, they are not over-the-counter medication. They go from one patient, from a doctor to a patient or a nurse to a patient, following particular policies and standards. But after an encounter with such a doctor, they are not just distributed like food or like water or like vitamins. So that's exactly what I was discussing with the minister.
Yeah, and from that discussion, what's your final analysis around what is required? Because during the press briefing that was held earlier this week, the Deputy Police Commissioner had indicated that the ARVs will indeed be sent down.
Well, I don't know. I don't know how she's going to do that, because who do you send ARVs to, Elvis? As I'm saying, for you to get any medication, especially like ARVs, a doctor ought to have examined you and prescribed them. Under whose name will the ARVs come out? Where will they come out from? What will they be treating? Because we don't know the diagnosis of anybody. But if that person has not been seen by a doctor, has not been examined, is just calling for retrovirals themselves, that will be wrong legally, because you can't just call for any medication without a doctor having examined you or without the doctor having prescribed such a medication.
From this response, we can see that there really is no communication between our government departments. They're doing everything solo. If they had sat down together to discuss the issue, then there wouldn't be such discrepancies. The other one is saying they will send the ARVs down. The other one is saying it is not legal to do that without the patient, which means that it would be essential for them to come out so that they can get the medication. I'm sure you're asking yourself this. So, since while the police department and the health department were opposing each other on the matter, what actually happened? Did the Zamazamas get the ARVs? The answer is yes. The ARVs were eventually sent down for the illegal miners. I don't have an opinion on this. I'll hear from you in the comments. 13 January 2025, several months after the commencement of the siege, South African authorities, directed by the Department of Mineral Resources, initiated a court-mandated rescue effort within the mine. But before the rescue started, the MEC of Community Safety in the Northwest Province stated that 7.8 million would be required to rescue the miners who are still underground. See the video on your screen.
And at the center of it, it includes finances and government finances. You do not just wake up in the morning and try and
how much do you need?
And try to procure things. There are processes that we must be able to follow. The report has indicated that we need approximately 7.8 million. It is the money that we have not budgeted for because we did not anticipate the situation like this. That 7.8 million is not anywhere available in government's coffers. What I know is that the process to get money is underway, and we will definitely get that money, and the cage will go down and get it.
Please note that over 33 million of South African taxpayers' money was used to rescue the illegal mine workers. And And this is what South African citizens had to say about this on X. A comment reads, "Lily mine workers were not rescued. 8 years later, their families are still waiting. Now we have illegal miners who went down there willingly, but the government must rescue them. How are these people given so much attention though?" Another comment reads, "I'm starting to think that these Zamazamas are funding political parties." The other comment in support of this comment reads, "You're onto something because there's no way they would be so invested in getting them rescued." Another comment reads, "Politicians and business people are involved in this whole operation. All people who came out are poor and vulnerable, but there's someone who has enough money to take the government to court and try and force the state to rescue those illegal immigrants. Prosecute that person." Another comment reads, "You have not noticed the trend everywhere in the world. The corrupt and criminal elements have more say and law on their side." Another comment reads, "So you all are ready and willing to spend taxpayers' money on illegal immigrants who chose to do illegal activities in our country? Wow. The human rights culture is of such importance that criminals have to be begged to leave their crime scene to a partial amount of 7.8 million. Comrades have found yet another way of sucking government coffers dry when they were thinking there's nothing to steal anymore." Finally, the rescue operation took place, and the metal cage and left equipment were used to rescue all miners, both dead and alive, from a shaft that was more than 2 kilometers below the surface. Miners, both alive and dead, were retrieved from the mine. Numerous miners who came out alive were thin, with torn clothing and no shoes. Since the start of the siege, over 1,000 miners had emerged. Although there were claims of 87 miners killed or more than 100 miners had died, only 78 bodies were recovered. It is important to note that among the 2,000 Zamazamas that had resurfaced alive, only 26 were South Africans. A total of 1,826 were arrested, facing charges of illegal mining, illegal immigration, possession of gold-bearing material, and unlawful possession of explosives. On the 16th of January, it was announced that all survivors had been rescued and that nobody else was still inside the mine. Law enforcement encountered public outrage, and they still face scrutiny for employing strategies such as severing the miners' food provisions. It is a bit vague to make conclusions of whether the miners were trapped or not, but the police stated that the miners were not trapped and were evading arrest. The miners who had resurfaced supported the statement and claimed that some of them could not come out because they feared the underground gang leaders who controlled the illegal mining underground. They also further claimed to be evading arrest. The report of 4,000 miners being underground was a baseless rumor with no supporting evidence, as we saw the numbers displayed. We are grateful to our police for dealing with this issue and trying to combat the issue of illegal mining. Our government departments should also try to work together and be coherent with each other before addressing the nation to avoid embarrassing each other and having opposing views, just as we've seen with the ARV saga. Furthermore, illegal mining is also burdening our government finances, as we saw that over 33 million rands of taxpayers' money was spent on rescuing the illegal mine workers. The most important thing is that the miners were rescued. All is well that ends well. This is Siro on the Daily Nightshade. We've reached the end of our episode. Let me know what you think in the comments. Please like and subscribe. See you on the next episode.